So I was going to talk about utopian versus naturalist religious and spiritual traditions. And as I was trying to formulate how I did this video, because my last video came off really not organic, because I actually wrote a script for it because I was struggling so much with what to say, and I wanted to make sure I said the right things in the right order and got everything in. So, utopian versus naturalist religions. It's a distinction that really made a difference for me early in my spiritual religious path. Basically, it's the idea that some religions or traditions or cults within religions or sects of religions are utopian. The idea that the world is fucked up and that sometime in the future that's going to change and everything's going to be perfect, versus naturalist traditions, naturalist philosophies, whatever word you want to use to describe that. Naturalist traditions think that the world is always kind of in its sum total imbalance. Also in there is this distinction of good versus evil. Utopian religions tend to believe in these really linear, clear-cut divisions between good and evil, and everything is always one or the other, and they kind of stay that way. Whereas when you start looking at the naturalist traditions, it's a lot harder to call something completely evil. It's just drives that are in nature, and it can be conflicting drives. A lot of the naturalist traditions, that's that polarity and multiple poles, but polarity in all things is kind of what makes up the sum total of the balance of the world, and the idea that the world is just fine as it is and always has been and always will be. And I was going to list off different world religions and call them one or the other. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it's really in how you approach it. It's how you approach it. It's the individual assumptions that are made, because so many different things, even within a world religion of one country, there's a million different ways to interpret it. There's a million different interpretations, and it really does seem like you can either get a utopian or a naturalist philosophy out of, or worldview out of any spiritual or religious tradition. But I think that distinction is really important, because I think these utopian worldviews are unhealthy. I don't think that's the way the world works, and I don't think that that's how we're meant to work. And it does bad things in a person's psychology. It can result in some really crazy justifications for some really crazy things that you do in the world based on your philosophy, your religion, your spirituality. So you can find nuggets of either one in any religion. Looking at it, you could argue that the Buddhist idea of all of this meditation and everything is just to escape samsara, just to escape the wheel of suffering. That's kind of utopian. And even in certain people's interpretations of the Abrahamic faiths, you can find naturalist traditions. There's Gnostics, and really a lot of, I think, modern people's kind of worldviews of the Abrahamic faiths. If they've gone through Reformation and stuff like that, it does turn into more of this naturalist idea. And I was going to draw the distinction because, in my mind, when I started making this video, I was thinking that, there really aren't any monotheistic religions that are non-utopian. There really aren't any pagan traditions that are non-naturalist. And I was going to make this distinction. But you really can't do that. So much of this shit is open to, it's all about how you interpret it and how you put it into practice and how you see it. You can believe in one God and see that one God in everything. Or you can believe in many gods and still think that they're going to bring about this utopian Ragnarok where everything is perfect afterwards. It's a really slippery thing, and it's hard to define because I don't think our language deals with these things very well. I mean, we have a very flexible language, but there aren't common distinctions for a lot of this stuff. But you have to be really careful about utopian worldviews, because if you believe that, I mean, even if you just go to a person's actions in the world, if you believe that you're chasing utopia, that's almost universally bad. I mean, that's bad in the political realm, that's bad in the spiritual realm, that's bad in like an organized religion realm. You can find these things in everything. But I think the naturalist philosophy or theosophy or spirituality or religion, I think the naturalist tradition is the healthy one. I mean, for lack of a better term, it's the natural one. So I wanted to talk about that, utopian versus naturalist, and think about that in all things. Make sure that you aren't chasing utopias, justifying terrible things in the name of that, or just acting like shit until utopia comes about. Have a good day, guys.